Good tiding, fellow Earth dwellers, and welcome to League Unlock. Eric and Mark hanging out with you guys. The group stage is behind us, but it gives us an opportunity to redo everybody's favorite part of Worlds. We're talking top 20 player rankings, and there was so much criteria and things to take from coming into the tournament. Post-group stage, it's pretty easy. You base it on the group stage performance.
Absolutely.
That's it.
Get to live in the world of reality here, watching the facts go down, seeing all the stats, and seeing how the group stage plays out here. Time to revisit the top 20 players here, evaluate the play that we've just seen here, and give you a fresh list of rankings here to talk about.
And as per usual, the group stage has your fair share of surprises, disappointments. There's definitely some crossover in these names to the ones that we had before the tournament started, but they're in very different positions, or some are not on the list at all. But you start 20 to 11, and somebody like Broxa, if we had him week one Broxa, we'd probably be around 75, 80 on this list, but the 3-0, a lot of it had to do with the Fnatic jungler.
I don't know if you could really even put any Fnatic member here on this list after that week one performance.
No, they'd all be around 75 or 80 probably.
But the week two performance, major bounce back from the squad. Broxa specifically is someone in week two that I thought had a much better performance here for the team. Really brought an A-game performance in every single one that they played against. Massive difference maker in their series that they had. And I think another player here on the Fnatic side that does deserve the credit is Nemesis, going up into that Group C matchup here. Tough mid laners to go up against in Faker, Xiaohu, and of course, Tanner Time, DeMonte there. Can't forget about that. Nemesis handling all of them really well, managing even to get his own victory over the unkillable Demon King in Faker.
Yeah, and I think it's deserving that Nemesis is, spoiler, the highest ranked member on Fnatic that's going to be on this list. He absolutely stood toe-to-toe, and even we said nobody would get for week one on Fnatic. He was actually the most consistent even when they weren't winning these games. He was an absolute rock in the mid lane, and something you've really seen him do more of in the summer split, late summer split especially, is be vocal on this squad that now has 4 veterans. Whipple's kind of a veteran, a one-year vet, but he's spoken up and his voice is heard, and he is very demanding and assertive whenever he's in comms.
Right, and this is something you got to remember when you're talking about Fnatic at Worlds. 2017, you had a young squad with Broxa and Caps getting their first international experience there. Now you've got Nemesis here picking up this type of international experience.
What a debut, man.
Gonna have to see how quickly he can use some of these lessons he's learned from the group stage, because if it can come into play here in quarterfinals, Fnatic is gonna be scary in every position.
Yeah, the mid lane matchups don't get very much easier as the knockouts go on. You're gonna have DoinB here next in that quarterfinals, who, funny enough, he's actually one spot ahead of on these rankings. Listen, we had DoinB number 1 before the tournament started. It's very safe to say FunPlus did not deliver to the level that we were expecting. Yes, they finished where everyone expected in Group B, but it took them a long time to get there. It was a long journey. We have 3 members that were all part of the top 10 when we did the rankings before, but based on how sloppy Group B was in general, I don't think there's any way you could put them in the top 10 now.
No, and I think that here, having them in the top 10 here, heading into the group stage, absolutely, I'll defend that one to the end of time here because of the consistency that we saw from FPX during the LPL summer. That is what you had to expect coming into this group stage, and especially with what appeared to be the group of life in Group B, ready for them to take all of the advantages that they could there. They simply just weren't able to do that and run through the group the way that they wanted to for the most part. You did see in a couple of the matches them actually show up and show more of the shades of that FPX that you wanted to see from the LPL summer, but here just not enough from any of these 3 big-time members here for FPX. And you know how much I love my super carry DoinB, but I gotta put him below the likes of Nemesis in this one.
And there was still some games where you did see DoinB pop off, but I think Nemesis was probably the most important player for Fnatic here throughout the majority of the group stage, and that was not necessarily the case for DoinB on FunPlus. There's also a couple SKT members that you see here around the top 20. You had Khan at 19, who, I mean, he wasn't completely destroying anybody, unless it was Hooney, who was getting destroyed by most people in their matchups. And Teddy in here at number 14. We know he's not always going to be the focal point of SKT, but he was absolutely consistent for them.
Very consistent damage coming through for SKT from Teddy. And again, these are the two boys that ended up making that teleport trip with Faker to end the game against RNG here. Relied upon them. And of course, Teddy even playing something like the Kale in the bottom lane as a response to the Garen Yuumi. This has been a nice performance here so far. Very steady from these two members of SKT and important for their success.
And Rookie is a guy who was not in the top 20 at all. We did coming into the season because, frankly, if you had watched IG's games, he never really found his form after he was away from the team for a couple of weeks. He looked much better in the group stage. He still wasn't fully at his full power, but I mean, Jensen definitely felt some wrath from him. He did play 3 games of Orianna, which is, you know, not typically Rookie fashion, but he looks close to be getting back on track.
Yeah, but then he just brings out that Kiana for you in the game just to break NA's hearts here. Just another time here. Thank you, Rookie, for that little present.
NA doesn't need any help to have some broken hearts. They can do that all on their own.
Oh, boy. Yeah, but Rookie finds himself here onto this list. Well-deserved here to get back onto here. This is where you would expect a player like him, maybe even higher up into these type of rankings is where you would expect to see Rookie. But yes, deserves to be back on a top 20 list with these performances here, putting himself back on the map here on the international stage.
Next up, just outside of the top 10, it is the bot lane from Griffin, Viper, and liiiiiiiiitle. A lot of supports had somewhat underwhelming performances here in the group stage. liiiiiiiitle is actually the highest support we have on this list, and he's outside of the top 10. I think he was clearly the most consistent and really inted the least. That's a lot of supports across the groups. They were looking squishy, even if they were tanky champions. But Viper and liiiiiiiitle were fantastic, especially you saw those 2 games against G2. They performed well. That was because, you know, G2 as a whole was not looking great. But I think Viper, we know the mechanics are absolutely there. And they're great at Garen Yuumi. So.
Gotta love more of that Garen Yuumi.
No, we don't love more of that.
I don't know what mechanics you really need to pilot the Garen Yuumi here, but I tell you what.
E, man.
That is not what I'm judging Viper's mechanics on. I'll tell you what, he has certainly brought a lot of damage into this one. But I do want to talk about liiiiiiiitle. I think liiiiiiiitle is right. We haven't seen a lot of the stellar support play that we were hoping to see at this tournament here so far, knowing who we were getting. But I think liiiiiiiitle has absolutely delivered on his part, at least, for the supports, delivering some amazing playmaking plays, and again, still saving the lives of their team members.
Yeah, and that's always what you're trying to do as support, is calm everybody down. But you've seen a lot of the EU supports, the Chinese supports as well. They are not helping their team. A lot of the times they are getting caught out, but at least they're just trying to drop down some warts. Coming up after the break, we move on to the top 10, and despite the best efforts of some of G2's teammates, these two were rock solid in carrying them to second place. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back on League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys, continuing our post-group stage top 20 player rankings, which means, again, criteria is only from the group stage, 6 or 7 games of action that we saw here. We have reached the top 10, and you know, before the tournament started, we had a lot of G2 members, a lot of SKT, a lot of fun. Plus, some of these teams delivered on the hype. Some players on G2 definitely did not. We're looking at you, Mickey and Jankos. No, you're not on the top 20. Jankos, we had all the way at 3. And they got out of group, so we can't give him the Dade award, but he definitely did not deliver to the level we were expecting. Somebody who did for G2 was Perks in that bottom lane, and there was really the dual threats of G2 that were the most consistent. And keep in mind, the reason a lot of people are playing mages is mainly because of this guy.
And one of the amazing things heading into this group is what you saw here coming through from the other squads and what you expected to see in the bottom lanes. You knew, okay, maybe Cloud9 will try something a little bit different. And you knew from Viper and Griffin, you knew that there would be some awesome dude carries down in the bottom side, not just traditional marksmen. And you were going up against the king of non-traditional marksmen in Perks here in the bottom side, and the King held his crown here. Yes, they didn't get out as the #1 seed, but the performance from Perks specifically down in the bottom side, and again, for the most part, on those mages, I think that he was a major difference maker for the G2 squad, picking up the slack for the likes of a Yankos and a Mickey, who had a game or two of a couple of ints.
Or 4 or 5. But you saw a lot of other players try and pick something Syndra bought, and they're just... It doesn't look nearly as good as when Perks plays it, probably because the guy played the champion for, 4 years prior to swapping to the bottom lane, which is the flexibility he gives. Number 9 is his buddy in the mid lane. It is Caps. Both of these guys just kind of kept everything in place for G2, because if they joined the wild party that the top side of the map was going on for G2, I don't think they're finishing as well as they did, even with the 2 losses to Griffin. Caps, last year at Worlds, you talked about him underperforming with Fnatic. I think he looked great in the group stage for G2.
Oh yeah, man. Compared to last year is absolutely craps. This year is claps. Big time performance here coming through from the mid laner. And again, this is what you want to be seeing if you're G2, having this type of performance from a star player in such a vital role for your squad here. Again, this is the type of performance that you can see continuing throughout the tournament. This type of form that Caps is in right now feels good, man, for the G2 mid laner.
Yeah, and the rest of the guys will have to step up, because Caps is going to have his hands full against Showmaker in their quarterfinal matchup. Number 8 here is a doozy, because it's Uzi, and it is the only member on this list that's not through to quarterfinals.
Oh, feels bad, man. There's a picture that came out of Uzi the night after being eliminated from Fnatic, rewatching the matches here, watching Reckless's interview in tears in his hotel room. And man, it just feels so bad because of what an icon and character that Uzi has been in the League of Legends scene, and how historic he is, and what type of, power and figure he is specifically for the LPL, and to not have him here throughout the rest of the tournament, the rest of RNG. And again, the way that he was playing was maybe the best I've seen Uzi play on an international stage, and to have him not there at the rest of this tournament, you want to shed a tear for that one.
I mean, the numbers are absolutely insane, and obviously a lot of that is due to the fact he also had more than 11 CS per minute, but he is getting spoon-fed every available minion, every single jungle camp that's possibly
He's Mr.
there.
Uzi. He deserves it.
He gets it all, and you know what? As terrific a player, the best AD carry of all time he is, that's not really the meta right now, and I think that's one of the reasons why RNG will be watching quarterfinals from home. Someone who's not watching from home is number 7 on this list, and it is a young 18-year-old who, he started dominating solo queue, and now he comes with Damwon, a big question mark for this squad. But Canyon in the jungle was absolutely incredible in the group stage, and everyone talks about the solo laners as the key points for Damwon, and they absolutely are, but that entire top side of the map for the majority of the split was incredible, and I think Canyon played even better in groups than we saw in the summer split.
He really did have a fantastic play here throughout the group stage, and again, yeah, did seem like more of an improvement on what we had seen from the summer from him. I specifically want to be talking about, man, that Baron steal that they were able to get here at the back of the pit.
That was a 2-man Baron steal with the help of Showmaker.
2-man Baron steal with the help of Showmaker, but you got to give the credit here to Canyon, the man who secures it, making sure that they get that big purple worm.
Yeah, and his early game, I mean, listen, you're going to see as this list goes on, the junglers and mid laners at this tournament absolutely dominating, and probably the 2 most important roles at this entire event, which is why they're so highly represented. As we move on, number 6 is just another mid laner. It is the 100 KDA man himself, Chovy, who... he seems to be the Reckless of the mid lane, where people constantly just call him a KDA player. He's never going to actually go in and make the game-winning play, but that is unfair to the talent and the carry performances that this guy has put on in his very young career.
Right, and I think when you're talking about his very young career, you have to really look at what he does in lane. That's what I really want to bring the attention to for Chovy. That is what I think he does better than anybody else here at this tournament. I think right now, when you're looking at every single mid laner and the way that they handle their own lane specifically, I think Chovy is my number 1 pick in how he handles that, and that is certainly going to be something in Griffin's favor heading into these quarterfinals.
Yeah, and we saw at times against G2 and some of the other squads in Group A, much like in Spring Split when he was the 100 KDA man, he was turning around ganks like it was nothing. 1v2s with the jungler coming in and surviving, or sometimes in this case getting a kill and surviving. He didn't even necessarily need to completely dominate some of these matchups. I mean, the 2 games they won against G2, he didn't need to do a hard carry performance because the entire team was just stomping on G2. But for how big a liability people talk about Sword being in the top lane for Griffin, the fact that the other 4 members are just so far ahead in world class really speaks to just how great they are.
Right, and I think that Chovy doesn't quite get some of the credit that he deserves. I think a lot of people like to give it to the rest of the members of Griffin, saying that they're also very strong. And yes, very true. But I do really want to make that point known here that you got to give credit to what goes down in the mid lane for Griffin to Chovy. It is really a treat to watch. Pay attention to how he's doing it, all those mid laners. I know some of that moves will go right over your head, and hey, they go over my head too. But you got to make sure you're paying attention because you can certainly learn a thing or two from this young gun in the mid lane.
And Humanoid, you are getting, or Rookie is really going to be tested against Chovy in that laning phase. Coming up after the break, we hope you like junglers and mid laners because the top 5 is absolutely full of them. Have no fear, we have returned to League Unlock. Eric and Mark here with you guys. We have reached the top 5 for our revamped and revitalized top 20 player rankings after the group stage. We've already talked about a lot of junglers and mid laners. Well, there's plenty more of them here in the top 5 because that mid-jungle synergy has completely dominated the group stage here at 2019 Worlds. And in at number 5 is probably the MVP from the MSI group stage, and he pretty much did it again. It is Clid for SKT. He is always who the early game runs through, and really anything pre-20 minutes, and yet again another international competition. He looks real good.
Oh man, Clid is a monster out there on the Rift right now. The coordination that he has with the rest of the SKT1 members right now is a scary thought to be thinking about. The way that him and Faker move around the map, that is a duo that you do not want to be running into at any point of the game here. SKT's Pacemaker, that is right for Clid. Absolutely the one that dictates how the game is going for them. If he is on track, on time here, getting around the map, getting those objectives here, getting to those lanes to get advantages here, SKT, there's no way they're not winning that game.
Yeah, and obviously his smites are always true. It doesn't matter if it's a red buff, a dragon, or a baron. If it's a 50-50, it's not a 50-50 at all if it's Clid, especially if he's coming in for the steal. And a lot of junglers say they'd rather be the one going for the steal as opposed to the team that is starting it, which is why you always zone the junglers out. Number 4, unfortunately for Clid, he's not the highest ranked jungler on this list because you've got to recognize what Tarzan did to Jankos, who we had as number 3 coming into this tournament, and the back-to-back games on opposite sides of that Kiana Lee Sin matchup, Tarzan just had his way with Jankos.
You had that one where you're like, man, this champion is totally busted. You got to nerf it. And then you get on the other side of it and you're like, wait,
that one's busted
that one's broken too. What's going on here? Tarzan, unbelievable play here throughout the group stage, really delivering on that king of the jungle that we've been talking about throughout the rest of this summer split that we had seen here from him. This is the performance that you've been talking about a long time here when you talked about Tarzan possibly being the king of the LCK junglers here. Yes, we just had Clid, but you gotta have Tarzan's performance just ahead of him here. That is how special what we saw from Tarzan come out here throughout the group stage.
And it's been the same thing that we've seen with Griffin. When they're going undefeated through the LCK, Tarzan is without a doubt the best jungler in the league, maybe the best player in the league, and when he doesn't perform to those incredibly high standards, that's when you saw Griffin going through a lot of their slumps. But in the group stage, he has been at that absolutely insane level. And number 3 on our list has been at an insane level for, I'm going to say about 6 years, maybe with a 1-year slump. It is Faker. No, he's not number 1 because we got to shout out some other incredible performances, but he was absolutely back in prime form in this group stage.
This hurts because you want to be throwing the likes of Faker right up there to number 1, but he's got to settle here for top 3, and I think that, you know what, even with the performances that he's had here so far, I think even someone like Faker would say, okay, given the other 2 players that you're going to list above me, I'm okay with being in this top 3. He, of course, still will be striving and pushing for that top spot. That is Faker, never one to settle for anything other than the very top here. And right now, SKT feeling like they're at the very top of their game with Faker playing at the top of his.
Well, you know he always gets the best of 5 buffs, so good luck Splice, good luck Humanoid in that matchup. But really, he only had that one questionable game against Fnatic, and that was kind of the entire SKT lineup playing a little bit below the standards they had set in all of the other 5 games. But you saw Tristana, Akali, he can obviously... Champion pool is never an issue when it comes to Faker, and it hasn't been in his 7-year professional career, and it won't be at this World Championship. But he is not the highest ranking mid laner on this list because Showmaker on Damwon, he was absolutely doing just that. And listen, you see that Nuguri was not even on this list because we had him as the most hyped player on Damwon. I don't think he delivered at all. If you were talking Dade Award, I might be whispering Nuguri, even though they finished first and were very dominant. They didn't need Nuguri because Showmaker was insane.
Right, Nuguri didn't have the performances that you wanted here and the ones that we've been hyping up. He did find some type of value here for Damwon, but certainly not anywhere close to the value you're getting from having Showmaker, the king in that mid lane here so far. The way he was playing in this tournament so far throughout the group stage, massive, and I mean massive difference maker. That play there with Canyon here for the Baron, that's the one we're talking about.
2v4 basically.
Unreal steal here going through that one. And again, throughout the whole part here for Damwon, he was the biggest player here for them, the biggest difference maker on their side here. Getting out of that Group D as the #1 seed here. It's got to feel good here for Damwon, this young squad here, straight from Challenger and right into the knockout stage at Worlds. And again, finding Showmaker here as our #2 player from the group stage.
That mid lane matchup between Damwon and G2 is going to be absolute fire.
Ban Akali. Ban the Akali away from Showmaker.
Yeah, we should probably just throw her in with Pantheon for 100% ban rate throughout the rest of the World Championship. So Showmaker, Faker, Tarzan, none of them #1 after the group stage. Who could it possibly be? Well, it's probably, no, definitely the most dominant performance in his lane. It is the Shy for Invictus Gaming. They are the original Damwon, where it's all about your solo lanes, and he absolutely decimated pretty much every single matchup that he had in that group stage. Even though Invictus finished second in their group, even in their losses, one of them to Damwon, he completely obliterated Nuguri.
This is one of those amazing moments here for the Shy when you look at this group stage and what you're able to do. Going up against Impact, took down a former world champion here, a veteran of so many world championships. And then
that gold lead, that's just him.
And then he gets to go up against Nuguri, someone we've been hyping up so much for the performances that he was able to deliver. And we've had a lot of trash talking even come through from the Shy, talking about the differences, and oh boy, that is a deleted health bar in an ADC.
It ain't no Klepto Vlad.
And oh boy, that is that phase rush Vlad that we know the Shy is famous for, and he absolutely delivered it. And hey, even if he's not playing the Vlad, he's playing into the Vlad, and oh boy, that is deleted. No more Hemomancer, thank you very much. The Shy taking the #1 spot here from the group stage, firmly establishing himself as the top player throughout the group stage at Worlds 2019.
And that one matchup is why I lean slightly towards Invictus, again, taking down a Pool 1 seed in the knockout rounds, because Sword versus the Shy is probably, again, definitely the biggest mismatch that we have in quarterfinals.
Oh yeah, but I want to be seeing your boy Tarzan making that trip up topside, see if the Shy can handle some of that
That's
pressure.
2 kills for him then if you're sending. You need to send more than 2 against the Shy. That's it for our post-group stage player rankings. Eric and Mark here with you guys. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you next time.